Valerie, should I be able to hear sound out of this sound bar?
Yeah, you should.
All I'm getting sound wise is out of the TV.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, sorry. It's all connected.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay, because it doesn't seem like there's sound coming out of the sound bar, but
Yeah, it's working with the TV is why.
okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
I work better in front of it. And this far away stuff, I forget what it does.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, all right. I think I can hear better now. Okay. All right. Again, sorry guys for the delay here. Got my wires crossed here on evergreen versus conifer. We're teaching Win the Buyers. My name's Shad Phillips. I've been a broker here with Keller Williams for, I don't know, 5 to 6 years. I'm predominantly a buyer's agent. And so I'm going to speak to you guys about buyers and my experience today with buyers, and how to get buyers. Let's see here. On here. Okay, so okay, so I guess we'll just kind of kick in on, ways to get buyers. When you're working with working with buyers can be a great way to get started in the business. I think that they typically are what you will encounter first rather than listings. In my opinion, getting listings is really a little bit of a different business model. And so I would say, let's see here. So I'm seeing quite a few new faces here online. Some folks that I've not met before, and there's going to be different ways of finding your buyers. So when you're first in the business, for sure, you're going to be just beginning by letting people know that you're in the business, that you are working your sphere of influence, family and friends, and that may be a way that you're going to connect with people and begin to let them know that you're in the business. I will say it definitely takes some time to be able for people to get comfortable with you being in the business. You're going to events, parties, and things of that nature, and invariably they always ask you, what's going on in the market, and you have those conversations with people, and over time it kind of gets imprinted in their mind that you are a realtor and you need to become that kind of go-to person. I would say in the real estate business as a whole, this is a business. Okay. You are no different than the accountant down the street, the attorney down the street, the dry cleaners. You got to have customers, and it takes time to figure out how to get customers and how to get a steady stream of them. Many people get into this business for various reasons. Some people, this is a full-time career. For some people, maybe this is just supplemental income. And it, it kind of can dictate your business model. So, again, I work a lot with buyers. I tend to like buyers. I think but there are different kinds of buyers. I would say I work with a lot of buyers, and a lot of mine tend to be heavily focused here in the foothills area. And so I tend to have a lot of very good luck with them, but I think there are a lot of different types of buyers. I would say that there are buyers that are maybe first-time home buyers, or maybe they are credit challenged. I think those can be a little bit more difficult to work with because they maybe it is their first time, or they've got some obstacles to overcome. And so they're not going to be as ready to go. I'd say a lot of the buyers that I deal with, this is not their first home. They're not credit challenged. They are, they've got, this is their third, fourth, fifth home. They've built a lot of equity. They have quite a bit of money, and this has been a challenging market to work in for sure. Just because there's been such a high demand for homes and the inventory has been so low that it even made it more difficult in working with buyers, because the only buyers that could get houses were ones that had enough money to put down 20+% down on a house, plus, need $100,000+ to pay above list. So, but the market is shifting and in the buyer's favor. And so I think that's a good thing here. So that's kind of been my experience with buyers. Here it talks about finding buyers. 89% of buyers purchased their home through a real estate agent. 41% of buyers found their agent through a referral of friends and family. 75% of buyers interviewed only one real estate agent during their home search. 51% of buyers visited an open house as a way to search for homes. The number here that resonates for me would be 75% of buyers interviewed only one real estate agent during their home search. My experience with buyers, or my best advice to you would really is position yourself as an expert in the market, especially evergreen. Evergreen is a very unique animal that is very different than anything in Denver. Denver, in my opinion, is no different than Dallas or Atlanta, major cities. They're very similar animals. And so to move from one to the other, I don't know, is drastically different, but to go from, let's say, Dallas to Evergreen, moving in the mountains, is a very different animal. People do a lot of research, and they want somebody who understands that market and can kind of be a guide for them. So if you have the ability to, and again, I'm talking about a lot of times, like what I deal with a lot of times are out-of-state buyers. And so they want somebody that can guide them. And so you'll have a phone conversation with people like that, and you will, it's an opportunity really for you to be able to demonstrate your level of expertise. So I would definitely, one of the best advice I would give to you is know your market, understand the stats, understand what's going on in the marketplace, understand living in the mountains. There are a lot of quirky, weird things that go on here. Like, for example, buyers have no idea. Are they moving to Narnia? Is there like 8 feet of snow outside my door all winter long? No, but they don't know that, so if you can demonstrate that level of expertise on a phone call, then most likely they're going to go with you. Buyers are not people who typically shop a bunch of agents. That's been my experience. Now, again, there are different types of buyers that you encounter out in the marketplace. But I would say in Evergreen, I think it attracts a very specific type of buyer. And in my opinion, there's not a ton of tire kickers, or at least mine aren't. So I don't spend a lot of time dealing with that. So I'd say the vast majority of the people that I have conversations with, as long as I demonstrate a level of expertise, they're going with me. I demonstrate on the phone call that I clearly know a lot about this marketplace and that I can guide them and help act as an advocate on their behalf, so that whatever they buy is going to be, going to fit their lifestyle. So let's talk about maybe some ways of getting buyers. And again, we talked about like your sphere of influence. So for those of you who are new in the business, I think that really could be one of the best ways is to reach out to your sphere of influence, let them know that you're new in the business. And maybe like something you can do is get market updates to them You can, and one of the best ways to get that information is to attend like the weekly masterminds. Kevin and Bill are going to talk a lot about, as well as a lot of agents, are going to talk about what they're experiencing in the marketplace, and that's really going to give you a lot of inside information about what really is going on here. And then I'm not saying hound your sphere of influence with this information, but maybe at least once a month, give them an update. Say, hey, the market's hot. I'm experiencing, there's lots of multiple offer situations are going on, or hey, the market is shifting and there's more inventory coming on the market and buyers are not experiencing having to bring or experiencing as many multiple offer situations as they were, in the spring. Just giving them some type of information. That is your opportunity to demonstrate a level of expertise. And by doing that over time, and you stay in front of them, then when they're thinking of moving, then you have to stay top of mind with these people so that they know that you are in the business and that you're not dibble dabbling in it, that you are an expert in it. And I think real estate's kind of a funny business that I think there are a lot of agents that exist in the marketplace. And I think that the public probably views us as a dime a dozen, but unless you really take the effort to establish yourself as an expert, that they're not going to know how you're different from anybody else. Let's see, other ways that you're going to get buyers. Certainly you could do, there are paid leads that you can do out there that are like through Zillow, Realtor.com, Bold Leads. There's lots of different programs out there. I personally have not really participated in buying leads. I think it's a very mixed bag. I would definitely encourage you to do a lot of research online, like looking at reviews, maybe going to YouTube, seeing what other agents have experienced. And from what I've found, again, it's kind of a mixed bag. Some people have had success with it. Some people have not, and it's not cheap. And you really have got to, you may get a lot of leads that come in and you've got to be able to cultivate them. And really it's like mining for gold. I don't know, let's say 100, 200 leads come in. Maybe there's one real buyer or seller in that, So it's not like, oh my gosh, I've got 200 leads, I'm going to sell 200 houses. Not likely. So be very careful when you're spending those dollars, on that. So I'd say watch out for that. Let's see, other ways that you can get buyers. You certainly can also do, you can utilize like social media. You can develop a presence there in the marketplace, and whether it's Facebook or Instagram, developing a presence there to establish, your expertise in that marketplace. If that's what you're going to do, I'd say, it's an art in and of itself, and it's something that you really have got to learn how to do. My core expertise is digital marketing, and so I utilize a lot of digital marketing to find my buyers. And it's a fruitful way of doing it, but I will say it's not. I spent in my business, it took me about 3 years of building my infrastructure before my business kicked in. The first 3 years, I probably did maybe 2 or 3 transactions a year. I was definitely operating probably part-time in this business because I had another business that I really relied on to really pay my bills. And so I had, one foot on each side of the fence there, if you will. But about year 4, it kicked in for me, and all the work that I spent building my infrastructure really helped, build a pipeline and build a business. And so, that's what's worked for me. Anybody have any questions so far?
So I have a question.
Okay.
So I was just curious to know, you were kind of commenting and saying you find out of state buyers. What is a good technique that you use to find out of state buyers?
What is a good technique to find buyers?
Yeah, out of state buyers.
Out of state buyers?
Yes.
Well, again, so I use digital marketing. So I use Google, I use social media. I use YouTube. I use a variety of different, tools to be able to develop a presence online, to be able to attract those people. As I've said, people moving here, they have a lot of questions, and so they need answers to those questions, and they are looking for experts. So, that's been kind of my experience, in doing that. But I will say this, I mean, there are lots of agents that in this business, if you sat 10 agents down and you said, how do you get your leads? You'd find that you probably get 10 different answers. There are people in this business, and I think this is very wise. Like, you can be an expert or portray yourself as an expert in everything, or you can be incredibly niched. So here would be an example. Let's take Bill Davis. Bill Davis and let's say Sally Ball. Their core expertise is ranch and land. So they know that marketplace inside and out, and those can tend to be very complex transactions. You're dealing with land, you might be dealing with water rights, definitely wells, septic systems. They can be very complex, but they have spent a lot of time becoming experts in that. And so, like, for example, in this office place, I'm going to speak for myself, but this is probably true for most agents. If I encounter something in that niche and I have questions, I'm probably calling Bill or Sally, because I know they have the answers and they have the expertise. So when they are marketing themselves in the marketplace, they are able to have an extremely intelligent conversation. Let's say somebody owns a ranch. They're at a Christmas party, and they're having a conversation with them. That rancher can figure out real quickly that Bill and Sally can talk shop with them, and that they very much understand, ranch real estate or land. Okay. Here would be another one I would say, like condos. If you are an expert in condos, there's definitely a market. I mean, it's not the primary piece of real estate here in Evergreen, but it's a niche, and if you were to present yourself as an expert in condos, you're probably going to attract those types of buyers and sellers. John Juan, he lives in Chimney Creek over in Genesee. Because of his level of expertise in condos, townhomes, John is going to do a certain number of transactions every year on that, just because he knows how to talk shop. He understands those types of animals. So that would be a piece of advice that I would definitely give you guys, is maybe think about being an expert in something. It could be an area, it could be a neighborhood, it could be a type of real estate. And that allows you, because you have to think about this. We've got 80 plus agents in our office alone. There are hundreds of agents that service the foothills. Maybe, I don't know, 200, 300, 400. How do you separate yourself? And a great thing about a market like this is this market is extremely different, in my opinion, from other markets, in the sense that we're not selling $200,000 homes. We don't need 80 transactions to make a lot of money. You could do 10 transactions in this market, selling 700, 800, $1 million homes and make a pretty darn nice living, you know? But being an expert in something is definitely a way to differentiate yourself. And I highly encourage that. All right.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. All right, so we've got a lead generation model here. We're talking about, we kind of started out by talking about prospecting. So once you have got a buyer or you've had a conversation with a buyer, and this is something that I'll kind of go over with you, kind of what a phone call looks like with me. When I'm talking to a buyer, number one, I want to understand, what are their needs? You know, what are they looking for? And one of the things I definitely will ask them about is like, what's their lifestyle? You know, a lot of people coming into a marketplace like this, they tend to be very much outdoorsy kind of people. Sometimes they like to mountain bike. Sometimes they like to hike. And I ask that question because I want to be able to play to what their interests are. You know, if they're big hikers, well, maybe I'm going to tell them, you know, we've got a lot of open space parks here, you know, right at your fingertips. I'm also going to, you know, I want to understand their budget. I want to understand their time frame. I want to like try to dig in and understand like what questions they have. Sometimes, again, moving to a place like in the mountains is a very different animal. And so maybe they have concerns about wildlife. Maybe they have concerns about weather, commuting. You know, I want to be able to answer those questions for them. And also I want to present myself as being an advocate for them. I haven't always lived in the mountains, you know, so I know what it's like to live in the flatlands. Again, I'm from like the Dallas area, so I know what it's like to live there. I get buyers from there, and it's very comforting for them to know that I have been in their shoes. Beyond that, what I do is to cultivate that lead is I will set them up in. I personally use Matrix. But we've also got Command to be able to go in and set up, you know, these user profiles in there, and you can go in. So to do that, you need their email address, and you need to know what is their price range and what areas are they interested in, you know, and you just go in there and set that up. And then that sets up an email property feed. And then every time there are properties that match that criteria, they're going to get an email. That's a way of staying in front of their face. You know, one other thing that I do to kind of stay in touch with them is I use a CRM, and I will put them in a CRM that is going to allow me to take notes so that I understand. I mean, in the beginning, maybe you don't have a whole lot of leads. You're like, I got 1 or 2 buyers. It's not hard in your head to kind of keep all that information. But over time, 1 to 2 turns into 5, 7, 10, 15, 20, 50, and it's hard to keep track. So I would say definitely start using a CRM sooner than later, just so that you can get used to it. I'm sorry?
Hey, Shad.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I had a quick question, if you don't mind. So
Yes.
are you using Command and CRM interchangeably, or is there a different CRM that you're using different from Command?
So I'm going to say you most certainly can use Command, and Command can be a powerful tool for that, because it integrates with a lot of the marketing features that exist in there as well. And so I very much like that. I personally don't use Command. I use a different product, but that doesn't mean that Command's not. I mean, Command is free for you, and I would encourage you to use it.
Well, and there are note-taking facilities in Command, so you can track your understanding of people, just in case. I mean, because you probably remember this, Shad, when you're a new real estate agent, you feel like all you're doing is spending money on new programs, new systems, new things. Yep. And if I can use something that's free for me for all of this, I'm not going to bother with another system.
Exactly. Especially when you're new, I mean, I would go with the free stuff. Again, it's not hard to keep track of 3, 5, 10 people. You know, if your business model changes and you feel like you need something else for some of the reason, then explore that. But I think for now, I think Command is a great tool. You know, and again, it integrates with lots of very powerful features, you know, that I think that could be beneficial for you. So definitely use a CRM. And one thing that I do is something like, again, I can look at a buyer's profile and I can see what they're looking for. And sometimes I will just like even just go into like RE Colorado Matrix and I will email them properties, say, hey, you know, I saw this, I thought about you. What do you guys think about it? And it just kind of, it opens a conversation with them and gives me valuable feedback. And it's just an opportunity for me to touch them. And sometimes through that, I'm getting valuable information. So maybe I get an update on their timeline. You know, a lot of times people that are moving here from out of state, they're not looking to buy something in 30 days. You know, moving from out of state can be a major deal. Maybe it's, I've got to change jobs, or maybe I've got to relocate. Maybe I've got children. You know, I've got to get a house ready to sell. I need to sell it. You know, there's just, I need to move. Like, you know, where am I going to move? Am I going to rent something? Am I going to buy something? Like there's a 1,000 questions and pieces of that puzzle. So you got to stay in touch with them throughout the process and cultivate that lead so that you can keep them close to you, so that when they are ready to make a decision, that they're going to call you.
Hey, Shad.
Yes.
So this is Stephanie again with another question. I don't know if you know, we can see the notes, the lecture notes on the screen, and it mentions several times smart plans in Command. And yeah, I've been doing this a few months, so I know how those work, but I wonder if some of the newer agents might like seeing how a smart plan is put together and how it functions and how it works, like more specific.
Are you saying that you want to see an example of that, or are you saying to talk about it?
Both, if that's possible, if you don't mind.
I don't have it dialed up, but I can certainly talk about it. Smart plans in Command is definitely, it's the same thing as what I was talking about with like Matrix, where you can go in and you can set up a buyer profile and you can define the criteria for what that buyer is looking for. You know, they're looking their budget, the areas, maybe even neighborhoods, and then it's going to email them properties based on those criterias. So that's something to certainly, I would say, to dig into, and again, that's a very valuable tool because it keeps you in front of that buyer. And it requires almost no commitment from that buyer. It's not like they've got to buy anything or they've got to sign any paperwork or anything like that. It's a very passive way. And so that's something I try to get done on a phone call. That's kind of how I'm ending my conversation is, hey, you know, would you like me to set you up on an email property feed? You know, just so you can be aware of the market. Even if they're not ready to buy right now, it's a fantastic way for them to be able to study the market, to get a feel for like, what do homes look like in my price range? You know, what areas of the foothills are they in? You know, and so I find a lot of buyers, they study that for a long period of time. And by the time they come in town, whether it's just a kind of like, it's their first visit to Evergreen, or they're actually in go mode, that gives them, that helps to increase their level of confidence. Something else I'd say regarding cultivating, one thing that I try to do, especially with out-of-state buyers, is I try to set up a time for, like, they're going to come in town to visit Evergreen. And so I really try to make it a point to try to meet them, because the closer that you can draw someone to you, the more likely you are to bring value to the table and to be able to develop a relationship and to be able to represent them as a buyer's agent. So I will meet with them, and that's just a more intimate way of being able to be there, meet them, answer their questions. Sometimes I'll even offer like, hey, you know what? Let's go look at some houses. I don't care if you're buying right now or not. Let's just go kick some tires. Let's go look at some houses in your price range. And that just really allows them to envision in their mind a next step. Like if they go into houses, let's say that I show them 3 houses and they really like maybe 2 out of the 3 of those houses. In their mind, they just like checked a box. They're like, okay, I've come to Evergreen. I like Evergreen. I could see myself living here. I've gone in homes and I like these homes. And I'm not even like, I'm just beginning my search. And the fact that I found things that are there in my price range that I like sends them home with a positive message. And then they can envision a possible next step. And it makes it much easier to get home and like get motivated to get the house ready, to get it on the market, you know, to sell it. So those are some other things that I do to cultivate leads. And then other than that, it's just a matter of just staying on top of them. And again, in in Command, you can set up in your CRM reminders. Hey, I need to touch base with this person every 30 days, every 60 days, or whatever, whatever you set up in a calendar. And that's probably wise to do so that you can just stay in front of them and top of mind. So when it is time to make a decision, that you are their go-to person. I definitely can say I've been guilty. There have been times where maybe either I was crazy busy and I didn't keep my hands on top of some people. And then I follow up with them later and I find out they went with another agent. Okay. And that's an expensive mistake in this marketplace. I mean, that could cost you $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, so, keeping those reminders and staying on top of your database is really important. All right, let's see here. Excuse me. Are you guys in Command right now? I mean, let me see like a show of hands, like if you guys are in Command or if you're just in Zoom. Okay. Second here. Oh, sorry. Let me see about getting in there to, I'm not in there right now. One second. Let me. All right, can you guys see my screen? Yeah, you can see that. Okay. Okay. Second here. 1 second here. I'm trying to be able to view my whole screen. Okay, there we go. All right, so creating smart plans. Start by giving it a name. So it could be, maybe you're going to do a birthday. Oh, let's see. So in a smart plan, you can set up, you can define what the smart plan is, and then you can define what, like, there's lots of different actions here, but sending an email can be one thing. It could be scheduling a call with them or creating a task based on that. In sending an email here, I'm just kind of creating a, so you could do newsletters. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in here that, as far as the different types of templates that are in there, newsletters, home tours, credit, financial health, things of that nature. Let's see here. And you can use that in a smart plan, again, to cultivate your buyers, to keep them close to you. So let's see. So, I mean, that's kind of the gist of that. I don't use these a whole lot, so I apologize. I don't have a high level of expertise in them. I use these tools in my CRM, but that's kind of the gist of it. Get back to where I was at. Let's see here. Okay. Qualifying buyer leads. So definitely as a buyer's agent, and I've heard a lot of agents talk about this being, I mean, one thing you don't want to do is just get with tire kickers and you're spending your time driving them around to find out that either they're not financially qualified, I don't know, maybe they're 3 years out. There could be a lot of different things in there that can waste your time. And so again, in my initial conversation, I'm talking about budget. I'm talking about, have you talked with a lender? Are they pre-qualified or pre-approved, with the lender? Things like that. And again, it depends on the markets that you're working in. If you're in a marketplace where maybe there are people who are more first-time home buyers, then maybe there are more questions to ask. Again, my market primarily is Evergreen in the foothills, and I don't deal a lot with first-time home buyers. So I've never had anybody with like challenged credit or anything like that. You know, there might be more questions if you're in a marketplace where maybe you're selling $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 homes in Denver, maybe there's more questions to ask. But really, with buyers, if they're telling me, no, I've not spoke with a lender, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to meet with them or show them some properties. But again, my market is predominantly Evergreen. So it's worth a cup of coffee for me to meet with them to even have the opportunity to possibly sell somebody on an $800,000 house. If I was in Denver and maybe a lot of the leads I was getting, buyer leads, maybe they were $200,000-$300,000 people, then maybe I would be more proactive on digging a little deeper on pre-qualifying those leads. But nonetheless, I do have lenders that I recommend to people. If you are working in the mountains, for sure, I think there can be a big advantage to having lenders that have their feet on the ground here and that really understand mountain properties versus, you know, maybe somebody working with an institution like Wells Fargo or, you know, Lending Tree or something like that. I know there's lots of online resources that are easy to get to, and sometimes buyers are attracted to those. And I think that that can be fine or less problematic, maybe if somebody's buying a home, maybe in Littleton or Arvada or Aurora or something like that. Hi. But in the mountains, I would say it's to your advantage to have a mountain, an experienced mountain mortgage person, because these properties can be quirky and sometimes things go wrong. And if you have a lender who really understands mountain properties, they can communicate to an you know, to the mortgage processing department in a very different way than somebody who has never dealt with mountain properties before. And that can make all the difference between you getting to the closing table or not. So if your buyers don't have lenders, I would say have a list of people to recommend them, and they view that as you bringing value to the table. So I definitely would do that.
That same one that's wanting to wait till December. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I know she's getting closer to wanting to sell because she just made comments at her house.
Is she on the search?
This market right now is in the process of shifting, and I'm not really sure where it's going to go yet. But I would say this spring, this was a crazy competitive market. And unless you had either a cash buyer or a buyer who was fully pre-approved and ready to go, they were not going to get a house under contract. So as I was coaching my buyers who were very active in the market, I connected them with a lender, and I told that lender, I need these buyers to be pre-approved. What pre-approved, the difference between pre-qualified and pre-approved is, pre-qualified is, hey, I've given you my social security number. The lenders ran a credit check on you, you know, maybe verified employment or something like that. It's very basic level to basically see, you know, are you qualified to buy a home up to X amount of money? Pre-approved means that lender has worked with that buyer. They've got maybe pay stubs. They ran credit checks on them. They've in-depth checked them out, and they are all the way through the lending process. The only thing that they need is a home and an appraisal to attach to that loan. So they're vastly different. So getting a buyer that is pre-approved was critical. I still think we're in that marketplace, and I think that's important. And I think that's good for you guys, because if if a buyer can get pre-approved and you're getting that communication from the lender, if there are problems, that lender's gonna let you know. You know, so you're not wasting your time. So if a buyer is totally pre-approved, then you know you've got somebody that's ready to go. You know, that there's the odds of that there being problems with their finances is very low unless they lose their job or something like that. So pre-qualifying your leads can be very important to help to ensure that there are not going to be problems when you go to try to put a house under contract. And so again, in this spring, like houses went under contract crazy fast. So I had buyers come in and maybe they were looking at a house for 15 minutes and they had to make a decision like within hours of seeing that home, whether they wanted to put an offer on it or not. So I had to be able to get a hold of that lender to be able to get a pre-approval letter and be able to put a contract together. So imagine if I had gone and shown these people for 3 weekends and then we find a house that they want to offer on and I find out that they haven't, maybe they're only pre-qualified or maybe they haven't done any, like they haven't gotten with a lender. Well, the competition, they've already got their buyers pre-approved. They're ready to go. The offer is sitting on their doorstep, you know, within hours of seeing the home. They're at the front of the line. We're at the back of the line. We're behind the 8 ball. We're not going to be able to do anything. We're not competitive. Something else that would be important would be just getting your buyer's agency agreement put together. Get that signed so that it's crystal clear that you are representing that buyer. In an extremely competitive market, that needs to be done before you ever get to the contracting of a home. And so I usually will, after I've shown them at least one time, I'll get that unless I know I'm dealing with a very motivated buyer. If I am, I'll get that signed before they even come to town. And what I'm telling them is, hey, if we walk into a house and you're like, this is the one, I want us focusing on the offer. I don't want us focusing on our relationship. Let's get this paperwork out of the way so that we can focus on getting you under contract. And I don't really ever have any problems with that. So I think that's a very important piece of the equation as well, is the buyer agency agreement. Trying to think what else. Something else that I would say on that, and again, this is a changing market, but I'm gonna operate from kind of a worst case scenario would be is that in this marketplace, buyers, you need to kind of get a feel for maybe how much money they're willing to put down on a house, because a person or a couple who are going to put 3% down is perceived very differently than somebody who's putting 20% or more down. I would say in this spring, if you were a 3% down buyer in the foothills, it wasn't even worth your time. You were not going to be a competitive buyer. You needed 20% or more down. And I had to have honest conversations with some people and be like, you know, this is going to be a process, or and I even had some buyers that left this market and went into other markets to buy. They just, because they were not strong. Other things can be like VA buyers or FHA buyers. VA and FHA buyers, probably extremely few of them this spring got under contract in the foothills. I'd say probably, and this is a number I'm making up, but probably 99% of the deals that got done were conventional or cash. I had VA buyers that had great jobs, you know, could afford an expensive house, but the fact that they could not bring a lot of money to the table, they just were not competitive. So that's something else to look at. You really kind of got to get a feel for what's going on with them financially and how competitive they're going to be in the marketplace, and coach them. You know, But I'll also say, I mean, I had several buyers who were extremely qualified. I mean, I had one couple, they easily could bring $400,000. They were shopping for like $1 million, I'd say 900,000 to $1.2 million house. They easily could bring $400,000 to the table. They were extremely qualified. And I had a brutal time. I probably went through like 6 offers with them before I got them under contract. So qualifying your buyers, understanding where they are financially and what is the state of the marketplace, and being able to coach them on what to expect was crucial. It's not easy taking a buyer through 6 contracts, like 6 offers, and them losing. That's emotionally very difficult. It's difficult to make that phone call and let them know, hey, we didn't get it. It's very disappointing. These people fall in love with these houses. So knowing where they are financially and really understanding your marketplace and being able to communicate what this process could look like to them is very important to keeping them. It's like fishing. It's like fishing. When you've got a fish on the line, you got to keep tension on that line. If you let up on the tension, that fish can easily get off and go. So any questions on that? Okay. All right, we covered that. A buyer lead sheet, it's a good idea to maybe, have a lead sheet that has all your questions that are on it that, helps you to pre-qualify them and just have a systematic approach about going about it so that when you get off the phone that you're not having to go back and ask them questions that you should have asked them the first time around. Buyer agreement, we talked about that again. That's something that it depends on the marketplace. If it's a very aggressive market, then that's something I'm going after early on. If it's a little bit more of a balanced market, I probably am holding that until I'm getting closer to putting offers on the table. But I will say, again, there are very different types of buyers. If you've got, and buyers can be, unless you're bringing a lot of value to the table, some buyers are wishy-washy. Their loyalty to you may be very low. So they could easily be, and I've had buyers do this, like they might have you show them homes this weekend. They might find a home on Zillow and reach out to that listing agent and have them show a house. And if you don't have a buyer's agreement with them and they go contract, well, your time was just wasted. So and again, I typically don't get much resistance out of people on signing a buyer's agreement. The only time I'll ever get resistance might be if somebody's really looking in some vastly different areas. So let's say maybe they're looking in Evergreen and they're looking in Steamboat Springs. These are completely different markets. They're different MLS systems. My expertise, while I'm licensed to sell homes there, I'm not an expert in Steamboat Springs. In all reality, they should be going with a realtor in that marketplace who understands that market. So a buyer's agreement can be very selective to, if I'm getting resistance on that, then I might designate it to the Evergreen area specific or a certain number of cities. But again, rarely is that the case. Let's see here. Any questions on any of that so far? Again, I'm seeing a lot of new faces in here, and I know that we've got agents in here from different marketplaces. If you predominantly service maybe more of the Denver area, can I see just a show of hands? Okay. Okay. All right. So there's quite a few of you in here. So again, I mainly service the foothills. I don't deal a lot in the Denver area, so I'm going to really be speaking from a perspective of the foothills. And I think that probably in Denver, there's probably a wider variety of buyers as far as price points. So my expertise is not going to be able to cover all those areas, but I'm going to think that probably in the Denver area, you're going to deal with a larger range of people who are, their price points vary. You know, they might be looking to buy those $250,000 condos. They might be first-time home buyers. They might be credit challenged. They might, or maybe they are very qualified buyers, you know, and are looking for more expensive homes. So I don't have a lot of experience of dealing with first-time home buyers and how to really coach you on that. But I would say maybe be more apt to like pre-qualify those people. Ask a lot of questions to really understand where they're at in the process so that you're not wasting your time. I've heard a lot of in the industry that, I mean, typically people say like, you need to go, listings is where it's at. And there's probably a lot of truth in that. And so, but I'm sitting in a very extremely niche market and buyers work extremely well for me. So, and I probably, honestly, I could probably sell 3 buyers in the time that somebody could do a listing in this marketplace. So that's what works for me. So be more, you know, be more selective and definitely pre-qualify your buyers, especially if you're dealing with people on the lower end of price points. Okay, any questions? Okay. All right, goals. So whether it's buyers or it's listings, this is a sales business. It's math. And I would say the difference between a very successful agent and an agent that's struggling is going to come down to, it comes down to the numbers, the number of conversations that they're having. You know, if you're having 2 conversations a week versus another agent who is having 20, 30, 50 conversations, their businesses look vastly different. And again, it comes down to math. And so the way that you work your sphere of influence, or like, you've got to come up with a way of being able to have those, to create those conversations. And one thing I would say is, and I mentioned this earlier, if you were to sit 10 successful agents down and ask them, I mean, how do you run your business? How do you get your leads? You're probably going to get 10 vastly different answers. So by saying that, I'm communicating to you that there's not just one way to do this business. And what I would say is, find your superpower. Reflect on yourself. You know, like, what are my strengths? We all come to this industry from different places, you know? And so for some of you, you may be incredibly social people. Like, you have no problem walking up to a stranger and starting a conversation. If that's you, awesome. There are a lot of agents in this business. There's a ton of them. Probably some of the most successful agents in this business. That's how they built their business. They're just incredibly social. They'll go to a party and they'll probably have 20 conversations with people. You know, they run into people in the grocery store. My wife's kind of like that. She's also a realtor. She's just a very social person. It's funny. I mean, we could be on an airplane headed to Nebraska or something, and somehow she will run into somebody that she knows. And that's just how she is. You know, that's her superpower. You know, some of you maybe have an incredibly hard work ethic. You know, I know agents that are incredibly diligent, structured. You know, they follow a model, like they're going to have X number of conversations a week, whether it's I'm doing direct mail or maybe I'm doing handwritten notes to people. You know, I'm tracking their birthdays, and I'm staying in front of people and I'm just constantly having conversations. Some people are more like, for example, I came to this industry from a digital marketing background. I utilized that experience to build my business. That worked for me. So find your superpower and really dig into that. And don't, like if you see that agent who really, maybe you're not a super social person. Okay. I'm not a super social person, but I'm able to be successful in this business. So don't think that just because, somebody else in your office, like they tend to be like super social, that you can't be successful in this business. There's lots of ways to do this business, So again, it comes back to math, and it comes back to the number of conversations and, your visibility in the marketplace. If you're not very visible, you're probably not going to have very many conversations, and you're probably not going to sell many homes. But if you work at it to make sure that you are very visible, and again, that could be tons of different things. Again, it could be, I'm just a very social person, and I go into a coffee shop and I just meet people all the time, and I'm constantly networking, or I attend networking groups, or maybe I'm involved in nonprofit organizations, and I'm always just around people, and that's how I get my business, and that's how I get ingrained into a community. Or maybe you're big into digital marketing, or maybe you're going to be big into direct mail. You just kind of have to find what's going to work for you. But again, it's math, and you got to figure out, and this is true for all businesses, all successful businesses. The key to them is figuring out what type of marketing works for me and my business, and what gets me a positive return on investment. That's the key in all businesses. And we're no different. We just happen to be, for the most part, one person, small businesses, and we've got to figure out what's going to be the best use of our time and dollar to stay in front of people and attract clients. Okay. So it comes down to math. So here we've got a goal sheet here. Maybe your goal is 10 contacts per, it could be per week. I'm going to have 10 conversations a day. I'm going to do 10 handwritten notes, home previews, Scripts can be important in this business, to know what to say when you're in certain situations. So whether that's lead generation, maybe you're cold calling. Maybe some people are really good on the phone, and you are okay dialing for dollars. Some people are incredibly uncomfortable with that. Again, find your superpower, but it is a numbers game, and if you don't have much money, or you like resources, you got to lead generate. And that, again, there's lead generation for buyers, there's lead generation for sellers. And in my opinion, those are two vastly different business models. So you have to really, build that out. If you are uncovering motivations for buyers and sellers, these are different things. Maybe for buyers, maybe it's a couple, they just had a baby, they're in an apartment, maybe it's time to move into a home, they need more space. Maybe for a seller, it's I'm sitting in 4,500 square feet, my kids are gone, I don't need to maintain this thing anymore, or maybe they've got grandchildren and then they're in another state and they want to sell their house and they want to move closer to their kids and their grandchildren. Maybe they're maybe closer to end stages of life, and they're just like, I can't maintain this anymore. So there's lots of motivations as to why people are selling. Identifying objections. Again, scripts can be very powerful. People telling you no's and overcoming those objections, that makes a big difference between you getting the listing and somebody else getting it. I don't tend to get a lot of objections with buyers. Buyers, in my experience, they're getting a free service. It's not hard to sell a free service as long as you are, bringing value to the table and show a level of expertise. not really a problem there. Certainly doing listings can definitely be more challenging because it's competitive. I mean, a lot of times those sellers are interviewing multiple agents, and there's a lot of strong agents in these marketplaces. Speak in terms the customer understands, speak their language, try not to get caught up, in too much legalese, or using terms that they don't understand, so here would be a perfect example. For some people in this marketplace, they've been thinking about, maybe they thought about selling, but they're like, this market's so tight, where would I move? How would I buy? And so in our industry, we talk about post-closing occupancy. Well, that's kind of a foreign word for lease back. So a lot of times I'll use lease back when I'm talking to customers, and I'll use post-closing occupancy when I'm talking to agents. Building confidence. Again, maybe for buyers, if they're very serious buyers in the marketplace, letting them know, hey, this is a process. There's a really good chance we're going to lose out on several offers. Letting them know that right out of the box helps to set expectations, so that they don't get, 2 offers in and lose, and then they start to lose confidence in you. Building confidence with a seller. Maybe that's more of like, hey, this is what's going on in the marketplace. The marketplace is shifting. 2 months ago, getting $100,000 over list was not hard to do. Right now, unless you've got an A+ property, that's probably not going to happen. So, role playing with scripts, certainly, those of you who are working with productivity coaches, that can be a great place to do that. You also can get with other brokers to practice scripts. Or even family and loved ones, you can work with them on that. And again, there's going to be different scripts for buyers and sellers. I think there's probably more scripts for dealing with sellers than there probably are for buyers. Again, I don't get a lot of objections. And my script really is more for dealing with buyers, is much more heavily based on demonstrating a level of expertise. And I think that comes down to, and I think this could be maybe even more challenging for you brokers who are down in Denver. Denver is a much larger area. There are lots of different neighborhoods and niches, and knowing the school systems in all of those and being able to really speak intelligently about all those, that's a much bigger playground than I think the Foothills is. And so I think you have a different level of challenges. And I think, again, it's better to be an expert in a few neighborhoods than it is to be a jack of all trades. So bringing that level of expertise on those areas sets you apart in that. So scripts can be important for sure. Compliance, do not call lists. I know that in our office, Valerie will send out periodically, here are people that have requested that we do not call them. And it's very important that you don't call them. So if you are, making cold calls that for FSBOs or expireds, things of that nature, you definitely need to be aware of the do not call list and comply with that, just to keep, yourself out of trouble. Let's see here. Let's see here. Other things that I would say would be, I know Keller Williams offers a lot of resources that are videos that help to coach you guys as well. There are also a lot of online resources like in YouTube. Tom Ferry, Ryan Serhant, those can be great people to watch and really listen to them. They have a lot of experience in the industry, and they also can help you to keep a pulse on what's going on in the marketplace, even from a national level, and things from a marketing perspective that are working for agents, trends that are taking place in the marketplace. I highly recommend that you get on YouTube and really pay close attention to, find mentors in there to follow that can really help to guide you in your business. I definitely have them, and I follow them. And I even, like, as I'm maybe going from one appointment to another, or just throughout the day as I'm driving places, sometimes on my phone, I'll just kick on a YouTube video and I'll listen to, something that Tom, the video that Tom Ferry's put out for the day. That can be an incredibly valuable and a great use of your time. The other thing, again, that I would say, and I talked about this a little bit in the beginning, is this is a business. Nobody's going to be giving you leads. You're fully responsible for building this business. This can be an incredibly rewarding business. There are a few businesses that pay like this if you put the work in. There's a body of work to be done. And I know for some of you maybe who are newer, you're like, what is that body of work? And again, it's different for different agents, and you got to find your superpower, and you got to dig in and into that, and find mentors again that can help to guide you. And again, it comes back to a math game. You've got to be visible to a lot of people, and you've got to have those conversations with people on a routine basis to be able to stay top of mind. So when they're ready to buy or they're ready to sell, that they're thinking of you. This is an incredibly crowded space, and the agents that actually figure out what their superpower is and how to work it are the ones that are going to be in this business a few years from now. And those who don't probably won't be, So that's going to be a critical piece of this equation. Again, you're an entrepreneur and you are in business for yourself. And I think you have to, here's an analogy that I use with this. And I've been self-employed pretty much my entire adult life. So I totally get this, and I've experienced it multiple times. Anytime you're starting a business, it's like there's a huge concrete ball in front of you, and it takes every fiber and ounce of strength that you have to be able to get that ball to move 1 millimeter. And then if you're persistent and you keep to push on that ball consistently, you'll find that it starts to move a little faster. And if you're fortunate and you stay consistently working it, one day you probably will find yourself on the other side of that ball trying to figure out how to slow it down. So momentum does pick up. And so you just have to be mentally strong, and you've got to find a plan, find what works for you, and stick with it. Don't get shiny object syndrome, jumping around all over the place, feeling desperate, like, oh, I've got to buy these leads and all this stuff like that. I mean, that can lead to just maybe more frustration. Again, find your superpower, dig into it, find what works for you, and just stay in that lane and be consistent with it. And over time, you're going to find that people are they're going to call you. They're going to buy homes with you. You're going to list homes for people. It takes time. I've been in this business for 6 years. Again, I've been mostly a buyer's agent. My wife and I are a team, and we are really, I maybe do 2 or 3 listings a year. I'm not a heavy, but I'm trying to figure out more of that side of the equation. It's a very different business model. So I'm trying to find out what works for us on that end. So that's really kind of on a high level what's going on with buyers, how I get buyers, and how to work with them. Anybody have any questions for me, or? No questions? No? Okay. That really is, that's the gist of what I've got. Stay consistent, find what works for you, and dig in and just, stay the course. That's probably some of the best advice that I can give you. Again, I was in this business it took me 4 years before anything happened.
Just a personal question. Your wife also works in Keller Williams?
My wife works in Keller Williams with me. And so I'm kind of like the lead agent on that. And so we've got 3 kids. So she's kind of, handling both sides there. But she's working on more of the listing side of it. And I handle more of the buyer side of it. But yeah, we just work as a team on that.
It's so nice that we, as new agents, we're very confident that as you guys work together, because I think the business is very good. If not, you are not put all of your energy into this market.
Right.
And I have another technical question about how you get a referral.
Okay.
So just say if I have, we moved from New Jersey to Colorado.
Okay.
So I have some friends there in
Yes.
New Jersey. So if they want to buy a house, they ask me to refer some of local agents. I mean, I don't know how to do this whole thing. I mean, as your experience,
Okay.
just find out of blue, find something that, that's what I mean. Is like, I don't know what should I do. Start from the first step.
Okay. Are they looking to sell a house in New Jersey? Or
They want to buy a house.
they want to buy a house? Okay.
In certain area, just say in Elizabeth, that area.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's definitely a Keller Williams database where you can go and look up agents that are in the New Jersey area. And then what you would need to do is call those agents and vet them, like talk to them and say, hey, I've got a client who is looking to buy a house in New Jersey, maybe in these areas or whatever. And maybe, I mean, you're from New Jersey, so you would be able to have an intelligent conversation with them about, like, these are areas they're looking in, and do you have a level of expertise in that, or even that price point, and like maybe talk to 2 or 3 of them to see which ones you like best. Give that information to your friends, and certainly in the conversation with that buyer's agent, you'd say, hey, I'm looking for maybe a 25% referral fee. Are you okay with that? And if they're like, yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, you should verbally communicate that with them to make sure that they are okay with that commission referral, and then if your friend does contact them and they do end up working together, then there's an actual sheet that you fill out that is that you send to that buyer's agent. That basically, it's a referral sheet.
Do we have that?
We do.
In our
We do.
database?
I want to say that Valerie may have that in her. Let me see if Valerie's still on. I don't know if Valerie's still on. I think she's got that sheet in her, I forget what she calls it.
Yeah, I can contact her later.
Get with Valerie on that to ask about, that referral sheet. And then, but nonetheless, you fill that out, that gets, and you, on that, you're putting the amount that you're referring, the agreed amount, you sign it and the buyer's agent signs it. And then, they're going to turn that into the title company at closing. And so they'll cut 1 check to you, commission check to you. They'll cut 1 check to that buyer's agent, and then they'll send you that money.
That works this way. So yeah, thank you so much for.
Yeah. So referrals can be a great way to also build your business, reaching, and that can be like going to different events that are real estate related. It could be Keller Williams family reunion. Again, there's lots of different events that take place. I know that there are some agents that, again, if you're really good at networking and you go to these events and you meet people and develop a relationship with them, well, maybe there are agents that are there from New Jersey and you hit it off with them and they're like, hey, yeah, if I've got anybody that's going to be coming to Colorado, I'll connect with you. I definitely have made relationships with agents in other marketplaces, like Boulder. You know, these can be both mountain areas, but I don't really have a desire to drive to Boulder to show properties at this stage of my career. You know, maybe if I was just starting out, maybe I would, you know?
New agent, I would.
Yeah. You know, maybe,
Definitely.
if I was just starting out, maybe I would. You know, depending upon the buyer that I've got, but that referrals can be a great way to also, you know, generate business. And that counts as conversations, you know, that you can have with people, you know, and that all adds up. And again, it's about staying in front of all of these people. You got to stay top of mind with all these people. And that's really the trick, you know? You know, businesses do this all the time. I mean, we experience it all the time. You watch television, you know, companies like Coca-Cola, you know, they spend millions of dollars on these commercials. Their ad budgets are insane. And probably, I mean, and they can't complete a transaction out of a single one of them. It's all branding. They want you, when you think about, I'm at Subway and I'm going to get a soft drink. Am I going to get Coke, Sprite, Dr. Pepper? What am I going to get? You know?
Constantly brainwash you.
Well, yeah, but
Something like that, yeah.
yeah, they're in the top of mind game.
Yeah.
That's what branding is. And so if you can stay top of mind with people, then that you're going to be the one that they think of. They need to associate you with real estate and nobody else. And that is a huge, I mean, again, this is an incredibly crowded space. And if you can stay top of mind and figure out how to do that with a population of people, then you will get business and you will close transactions. If you cannot do that, you may struggle in this business. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for
you're
sharing
welcome.
your experience.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
very nice.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. Looks like we don't have any other questions right now. I think we'll be ending a little bit early here. Yeah. So, well, I appreciate you guys showing up. Hope you guys got some valuable information out of this. If you guys have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would be glad to help.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Sir,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sorry, this afternoon.